Welcome back to our Vegas Aces YouTube channel. My name is Angela Marie, and I'm going to be your host for today. Now, in this video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different and discussing the life of a professional poker player with a very special guest. But before we get started, I just want to remind you to subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification bell so that way you'll always be notified of our latest videos and live streams. If you're brand new to this channel, thank you. And if this is your first time here, Vegas Aces was created as a way to help people learn how to play and deal table games. As a way to give back to our community, we offer a free dealing trade school where we help place dealers at no cost. Vegas Aces has evolved into a marketing business that helps table game inventors bring their ideas to fruition and assists in placing their new games on the casino floors. Now, on with the show. Now, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and we're going to be interviewing a professional poker player. Now, what's different about that, you say? Come on now. Vegas Aces, we've seen Heather interview loads of poker players. Well, the difference with this professional poker player is that he gets to see your host naked on a regular basis. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This professional poker player happens to be my husband, Steve Moorman. So, Steve, thank you for being here with us.
No problem. Hello, Vegas Aces people.
So a lot of people, of course, if they know me a little bit, they know that I'm around the world of gaming and gambling and have been for a while, but they might not realize that a huge part of how I got into it is because of being around you. So I bet people want to know, how did you get into poker? Specifically, how did you get into professional poker?
Well, I guess it started very early. I was gambling as a little kid. I actually would go to my grandmother's house, and I had a little rack of change that she would keep there for me, and we would gamble with it. And if I lost money, she kept it, and if I won, I got to keep it. So I got to play cards with her and her friends, and I started playing cards with these people. We were playing 31, which was kind of a regional game. And years later, I always had a fondness for playing cards, and we would have friends come over and we would play in my parents' basement. And we played really ridiculous games, the games you always play at home. But it wasn't until later that I started getting more serious about the strategy of it. And when I started, it was about 23 to 25 years ago. And there wasn't a lot of information out there besides like Doyle Brunson's book, Super System, and Skalansky's books. And so I started looking at some of the strategy and finding that if you're interested in gambling, there aren't many games where you can get an edge, except for poker, where you have an edge against the other players if you have the right kind of strategy. And that's what really interested me in it. And I started playing a lot more often and started going to casinos and learning more of the cash game. So that's kind of how I got started.
Oh, okay. So that whole strategy element of it was what really grabbed you to turn you from just a home player into a professional player then.
Yeah, I liked gambling a lot. I like craps and blackjack. And the thing is, I don't really like losing. I'm very competitive. And yes. While there is losing in poker, it's one of the only games in the casino where you're playing against the other players and you get to use your skills, and you can literally have an edge in the game where you'll never have an edge in any of the other games. So it's completely different than every other game in the casino.
So is that the element of it that you like the most or the least? And by that element, I mean the people element. So instead of, a straight math game and strategies, do you think that's a...
The people element is really something unique about it. And it's a great equalizer. If you sit around a table of, say, 10 people, it doesn't matter what color you are, male or female, what your background is. Everyone is reduced to the same playing field under the same rules. And it's a very interesting game because you're just bringing yourself to it and your own experience. And it's you versus the other players, but it's kind of you versus yourself and how much discipline and strategy you can apply to coming out ahead.
Well, what is it that you bring, speaking of that you brought yourself to the table? So what is it specific to you that you bring when you go in there that you feel gives you an advantage over other people?
Oh, God, I think it might be a serious disdain for money.
Oh!
Well, you have to really not worry about the money. Sometimes, like in some of the larger games I played in, you'd think, well, I just lost a car, or you think about what you could buy with that money. In reality, you have to really become disconnected from the value of the chips in front of you and kind of play as if it's not money. It's just like it's the chips keep score for you, and you want to win, and so the more chips you have, the better score you have.
Wow.
But it is one of the few things where you can work all week and end up with less money than you started with. So it's not like a normal job for sure.
No, definitely not. Now, when you first started out as a professional, did you have weeks like that?
Oh, yes, yes. And the thing is, you can be lucky or you can be good. And luck tends to come and go. And even if you make the right decision quite a few times, somebody else can luck out, and it can be really unsettling if you continually make the right moves but don't get the results you're looking for. So the very first cash game I ever played in, it was at Binion's down on Fremont Street. I literally got a royal flush in the game. I left that game way up and thinking, oh my God, this is the easiest, best game I've ever played, hands down. And 25 years later, I have not got another royal flush ever again. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, so that's definitely skill versus luck. But then do you also just think that there's a certain element of, well, I guess just dumb luck to it then?
Every now and then you will make the worst move, and you've done it as soon as you put your money in there. Your cards get turned over if you're all in, and you realize, oh, I've really messed that up. And then the cards will come out on the turn of the river and totally bail you out. And you'll sit back in your chair as you stack the chips and just go, oh my God, I can't believe I got out of that.
Well, now hold your thought about the worst possible thing happening, because right now we're going to go to a word from our sponsors. But when we come back, I want to hear some stories about the worst thing that's ever happened to you on a poker table. If you like this video and you want to help support Vegas Aces, then just like in real life, please remember to tip your dealer. And now you can with Super Chat. Super Chat is a way YouTube allows you to show your appreciation by tipping any amount you want. Go on and give it a try. Or you can show your support by becoming a member of our Patreon page. We have different levels and rewards that you can choose from. Any membership level counts, even $1. So become a Patreon member today. Now, on with the show. Now, I hope that gave you time to think, because every gambler has tons of bad beats. So I know before the break, I asked you to think of some of the worst things that have ever happened to you on a table. What popped into your mind?
It's funny. If you'd asked me the best thing that's happened to me, I would have had a lot harder time. Strangely, recalling the worst things that have ever happened is much easier, and they tend to stick with you. And I would say there was a cash game that I was playing in, and it was a pretty big game. And it was a lot of the local pros. We were all playing together, and there were a couple of newbies that were in town, and they were sitting in. And so I got into a hand heads up where I had pocket kings, and it was just me versus this guy, and it was a raised pot, and the flop came out with three queens, and I bet into it, and he raised me, and I thought, I don't think he's got the aces, and I don't think he has a queen. I don't think he would have raised me there. So I just went all in, and he called, and he had ace king. And I thought, wow, that's a weird call, because he's really bluff called me for no reason. And so the next card off was a blank, and the last card was the fourth queen, which gave us both 4 queens, and he had the ace kicker. And I ended up losing my entire stack. And I'd been working on that for like a week. And in one hand, a ridiculous call, and it was gone. And I rebought, and I kept playing a little bit, but I just didn't have the heart for it. So I ended up quitting. And in fact, I didn't play for about 2 weeks after that, because I just couldn't get myself to do it.
Wow, it's like that happened yesterday. You're telling that story. I watch your face and see it in your body that you can still feel it.
some dumb things. One of my superpowers is I'm able to stay very even keeled. I never really get too upset. But I was playing in a game of the MGM, and a lady beat me in a hand, and she kind of slow rolled me, and I was like, I let it go, and then she beat me in the very next hand, and she really started needling me, and I don't know, I got the best of me, and I jumped up out of my chair, and I ended up knocking the table, and all the chips fell over, and I was kind of yelling at her, and I was grabbing my chips and stuffing them in my pockets, and I was holding them in my shirt. And as I was walking towards the front door, the security was walking on both sides of me, and I was hollering and dropping chips all over the place, and I wouldn't even bother picking them up. They were just rolling away. And I got to the front door and got outside and realized, wow, that was really dumb. So I couldn't go back to the MGM for like 2 months after that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I guess not. Well, other than avoiding such displays that cause embarrassment, what tips would you have for someone who has only started playing like professionally or in a casino? What kind of tips would you give them to take their game up to the next notch and to not embarrass themselves like that?
Well, the one thing you're going to learn is you tend to play like your personality. If you're more reserved or afraid of losing money, you're going to bring that to your game. So one of the best things you can do is separate from your personality so that you make decisions based on the hand and what is appropriate in that hand, not how you emotionally are dealing with it. Because as soon as emotion gets into it, you're gonna lose money. You have to kind of separate all that. But there are so many books and so many tutorials out there. There's so much more than when I ever started that you can literally spend a lifetime studying these things. There's master classes. You can watch Daniel Negreanu teach you in a master class how to play. And tons of books, just great books out there. And you can actually hire other pros to coach you. And, and if you keep track of your hand histories and things like that, the best way that all of us learned back in the day was online. You were able to get thousands and thousands of hands in online, whereas if you went to a casino and played, you maybe got, I don't know, a tenth of that. So it's experience that you learn from. And that was the key.
Right. Well, you mentioned books. To try to give a little bit specific to anyone watching this, is there a specific book or set of books that you would recommend, or a couple?
Well, for the very new people, Dan Harrington had a book called Harrington on Hold'em. And his first book, he dealt with starting hands and how you approach getting money into the pot and when to play in position. There was also a second book and also a third that had hand setups that you would set up a situation and then you had to decide what to do, and then you flip to the back and it told you what the correct decision is. There was also, if you're a tournament player, a super interesting book, Gus Hansen. I remember playing in a WPT with him, and he would get up from the table and talk into a recorder after every single hand. And what he was doing was he was recording his experience and what cards he had. And if he won a tournament, which he ended up winning, he wrote a book and had every single hand that he played and an example and why he did what he did. And I thought that was super interesting on like how a guy thinks. So
yeah, you've clearly read that one. You've clearly read that one several times, because I can attest we have multiple copies of it in our house. They somehow end up in weird rooms years after we're done. But that's all really interesting ideas and specific things for people to look at as they're first learning. And we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, I want to ask you more about that and ask you specifically about how someone can transition from that home player to a professional player. So put your thought on it while we listen to these words from our sponsor. If you like our videos and you want to help support Vegas Aces, then one of the easiest ways you can do so is by going to vegas-aces.com and clicking on one of our affiliate banners. When you sign up for an account through an affiliate link from our site, we get a small commission. If you ever have any problems or disputes, you can email Heather at heather@vegas-aces.com and she'll help you through it. I can personally vouch that the girl knows what she's doing and she can help with a lot of problems. Now, back to the show. But I just have to tell everybody, while we were on that quick break, we're in the same house, of course, but we are in different sections of it, and I can hear one of our cats just furiously trying to get at where Steve is right now. So apparently multiple cats are something that goes with poker. Yeah, I don't know, guys, but just go with it. So Steve, right before the break, you told us about some of the books and the resources that you would recommend to people, but I have a kind of a specific and yet general question. So let's say there is a player who has the right kind of personality and who can separate emotion from the logic of the game. What would you tell them if they looked at you and said, you know what, I'm going to go to Vegas and be a professional poker player? Like, would you try to stop them or would you encourage them? What specific kind of tips would you give?
Yeah, you actually wouldn't believe how many people have come up to me or said that same thing. And it's weird because if you even playing a game, if you do it for a living, it becomes a job after a while. And it's a lot harder now than it was back in the day. The players are a lot better now. It's a lot tougher. But the same principles still exist in the fact that one of the main mistakes people make is they say, oh, I can do this, I can be a pro, and they play for too high stakes. You want to get used to playing for real money, and so you don't want to play the highest stakes you can afford, because you're going to go broke, you're going to get disenfranchised with it, and you're going to quit. So start at a lower level than you think. Maybe a limit game, even maybe the 2-4 limit or 8-16, and learn how to manage your bankroll and keep track of it. Doyle Brunson told me way back that if you keep track of your bankroll and your wins in a little notebook, you're able to kind of make better decisions on the games that you play in. And I've run into more people that think they can do it and go in and lose a lot of their bankroll, and then they can't afford to keep going. And it's not going to be a straight line up. You're going to have wild variations sometimes, some of it based on pure luck or bad luck. Right. And it pays to really start off slow and build into it.
Well, you talked about starting at a certain size and starting slow and bankroll. My next question would be about those specific things then. To the same person that you're still answering that question, is there a certain bankroll you should start with? Is it a percentage kind of number? Is it a flat number? How do you figure that out?
That's based on your acceptance of risk. Now, if you're going to play in a smaller cash game, there are different variables that you're going to run into because it's not for a lot of money. People are going to see more flops and see more cards, so people are going to draw out on you more. So you have to play a little bit different game than if you're playing a higher stakes game where you can really put pressure on, say, a more no limit game. But as far as like how much money you need, there's a lot of resources. Like if you do a search for it, like what should we start with? And that goes with any kind of gambling game. And I like to have at least 10 buy-ins. So if I'm buying in for $200, I like to have a couple thousand for the game that I'm playing. And that will be my bankroll. And then I'll make an assessment on how I'm doing based on some of my results.
That's a great rule of thumb. Okay.
But I've made the mistake of playing too high. And sometimes when the game is really good, it's hard to avoid. We had a game, it was a cash game, and it was a private game I got invited to. We played at the top level of a casino, just on the table that was in the suite. And we didn't use chips, we used bricks of cash. And it was the first time I'd ever played with like seeing the money like sit on the table like that. It's different when it's chips, but it was a little intimidating. And I was definitely not the richest guy at the table, so I had more at risk. But that was the only thing I was doing at the time, and so I figured it was worth the risk to try and take down a win in that game.
Right. Well, as far as risk aversion too, I mean, this is definitely a very specific question, maybe to like people like you and I, but I kind of know the answer to this, but you do still play professionally, but not like you used to. You're not out on the circuit anymore. You're not in a casino 5 nights a week. And I know people often ask you, well, what made you stop doing it then? Was it risk aversion? Was it money? What made you not want to continue? Because obviously you were successful and you're good at it, but you made a change to kind of now again play only at that more casual level. So why was that?
Well, the thing that pushed me into doing it full time was I actually got laid off. I had a corporate job, and Oracle bought the company that I worked for, and I got laid off like the very first day. So I was hugely in the hole. It was I think 2007, 2008. And I had debt, and I started playing for a lot larger amounts. And I ended up doing very well and paying off all my debt and everything. But it became like I was traveling. I was playing every night of the week. Sometimes I was definitely playing online. I had multiple screens. I was playing 8 to 12 games at a time. And in 2011, I believe it was 2011. I think it was April 15th, 2011. The government shut down online poker. It was Black Friday. And I couldn't play online anymore, which is what I'd become accustomed to. And I had to go back to playing live casino games. That, in combination with the play getting a lot better, people started playing after Moneymaker won in 2003. There was just a steady stream of new players and fresh money. That kind of dried up, especially after 2011. Mm-hmm. And then when I met my girlfriend, I kind of decided that I didn't want to be on the road a lot, and it's not a lifestyle that's good for relationships and things. So I kind of decided those get together.
Yeah, I'd say that's a very good point. People who are looking at doing it professionally, they also need to be aware that work-life balance is always difficult, no matter what it is you do. But yeah, as a professional gambler, work-life balance is pretty much impossible. But I say you do a pretty good job of it at this point, Steve.
Well, I'm definitely not out in the middle of the night eating greasy food after like playing for 14 hours straight. So that's probably better for my health.
You're probably going to live longer. And you heard it here first. This is why married men live longer. They're not out at 4 a.m. eating greasy food and playing in casinos. And on that bombshell, a great tip. Actually, we just want to thank you for being here with us today, Steve. So thank you for kind of telling us a little bit about what it was like for you to be a professional poker player. If any of you guys are interested or have questions, you can certainly communicate with him by communicating with me through my YouTube channel. We'd be happy to ask anything very specific that you might want to know, because I know there's just so much you couldn't possibly get into it without getting into the weeds. But one last time, I'm going to say thank you to our handsome special guest. And we're going to let him go and get back to work and save the cat that is frantically clawing at the door. And guys, we just want to make sure that we say, as always, thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you coming back to watch our videos and our live streams. It's always great to know that you're here. Now, for a quick reminder, we just wanted to say Vegas Aces is supported by the viewers like you, and your donations are what makes it possible for these videos to be brought to you for free. If you happen to think this video was worth more than free dollars, please donate whatever amount you feel it was worth by clicking the link in the description below. As always, we appreciate you being here and watching, and remember to join us for our next video. And we have a live stream every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But until then, this is Irish Steve and Angela Marie with Vegas Aces, reminding you that education can change the world. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.